one bacteria called halobacterium, and that means salt loving. So it thrives in the salty water. The flamingos aren't in here, the fish aren't in here, nothing but salt. So people wonder about that bacteria, but once they drain the water off, the bacteria dies and or goes back into this water, and it's not salty enough, so it doesn't live. After they dig up that crust, they do leave a 10-inch crust that has been there for decades. It's a historic crust, and they do that to make sure none of the sediment gets into the next batches of salt. They dig it up, they put it into those trucks you see in the back. You see, if you look all the way to the back, you see the house structure and the trucks to the left. Those trucks ride right on that pond, onto that old crust. They scoop up the salt, put it into those trucks. Those trucks take this dirt road back, and off to the left-hand side, they ride up on, behind that, you see that V, that piece of equipment that looks like a big wide V? Behind there's a bridge, and the trucks sit up on top of that bridge, and the bottoms of the trucks open up, the salt falls down into the little cavity, it's given a saltwater ocean rinse, and then they collect it again, and they put it on a large piece of equipment called a hopper. That salt will hop around, sorting itself out by crystal size. And then once they hop it around and sort it out, eventually it ends up here in these piles. They do that using that equipment in the back that looks like a V. It rides this conveyor belt, and it drops the piles on both sides. One side is large crystals, one side is more of a medium-sized crystal. And after they separate it, they know, okay, it's harvest time. A ship will call from wherever. We had a ship from Belgium last month. And they call and they say, hey, we need, let's say, 13 tons of salt. Cargill says, okay. They figure out the date they're coming. The ship will come to port. And if you look on your right-hand side, you see the tall structure there? On the end of that tall structure, that's where the ship will dock, right there up against the pier. The arm of that tall structure actually bends and goes down into the hull of the ship. So the salt rides that long conveyor belt raw, just chunks of salt, and goes right into the hull of the ship. The front hull or back hull is filled first, then the ship will move or reverse or forward, and then they'll fill up the second hull. And it takes about 2 days because they really have to balance that to make sure the ship is sturdy and steady, so we don't end up with a bunch of yes, shipwrecks out there. So they balance the load, and then the ship is ready to go. While there's a ship in port, you cannot swim or dive here, but this also happens to be a very popular scuba diving and snorkeling site because the pier has been here long enough that it has these beautiful coral and sponges and different things growing on it.